I love world building. I think for me personally, that's like one of the things that I absolutely like love about writing. I love writing itself when I'm in the flow state, but for me, a lot of the actual writing is getting into that. And so a lot of times that's can be a struggle to put myself in the mind state where I can actually like bust out a bunch of words that are good. A lot of times I'll have to struggle through a passage before I get there, and I'll have to come back later and do a lot more work to get that up to snuff. But for world building, I just like it's just a joy. I just really love that. I'm a nerd. I'm a fantasy geek. I love daydreaming about all things fantasy. It's really like it occupies a lot of my headspace. And so for me, that's really fun. I just do it naturally. Even if I had no writer's gift, I would just do it anyway, just to be daydreaming and thinking about that kind of thing. But as far as when I get into trying to translate all that kind of imagination and daydreaming into a novel background or a setting for a novel, I personally, I always start with a core concept and kind of work out from there. So, for instance, I thought the core concept for world building, there were kind of two for the Dreadbound Ode. There was, this twin that had been bound to his dead infant twin soul, and that concept of binding souls into objects or other souls is one of the core like magical concepts. So, for instance, Bror, the main character, is tied to his twin's ghost, and he's a berserker. One of the other main characters, Henrik, is what they call a binder, who's a magician who will basically like sacrifice animals and use certain methods to like bind their spirits into, say, a stone or another object like that, that he can then later unleash the binding as a magical spell. So that core concept of binding souls became like a foundational thing. And then I built from there. And there's a lot of it's called the Dreadbound Ode. I don't want to spoil it too much, but
Mhm.
Dreadbound is, it's not really a spoiler. It's fine. It's fine. Dreadbound is like the term they use for when a soul is bound to another soul. So there are certain characters in the novels that are that have a different kind of magic than the average magic, that's more powerful because they basically have the power of a soul at their
Mhm.
possession. And so a lot of that came from that. The other element was, this like kind of this race that had come before, and it was like these godlike aliens that had had a catastrophic civil war that had basically whittled them down to like the heads of the two factions. And this current civilization had grown up sort of as a successor state that had flourished in the ruins of their civilization. So they use the technology, the magical secrets, like they build everything that they have on the foundation of what came before, but they don't have like the full understanding of it or the full capabilities of the society that came before. So like magical travel is souls. The ancient civilization used human sacrifice to bind a bunch of souls into a hulk of iron. But because of their advancement in that magical skill, they can make those hulks of iron fly through space. And now the new society has those ships, and they know how to operate them because they know a little bit about how this magic works, but they don't know enough to build them. So it's kind of like
Mhm.
a primitive spacefaring scene. So I take ideas that have like a little kernel and I keep kind of expanding on them. Um, and I do like, I think it's really great to do like mind mapping or just free brainstorming.
Oh
Mind
yeah.
mapping is you have a central idea and you write it down and you just like draw a bunch of lines off it that have bubbles of related topics, and you keep kind of expanding from there. Or just take a sheet of paper, and if you have a just any idea, just write it down. And like I would often will keep just a pad of paper that just has random stuff like that laying around, and I will just whenever something comes up, I'll just write a quick little note about it and just kind of keep expanding from there.